Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Muet Writing Task 1 session. I'm Madam Zohaida from the English unit of KMK, and I will be guiding you through how to respond effectively to an email or letter task in Muet Paper 4. Now, many students find this task tricky, not because it is difficult, but because they don't quite understand what the question actually requires. So today we are going to unpack the task step by step, and by the end of this session, you should know exactly how to write a clear, well-organized, and accurate response. Let's begin with the question. When you get the task, should you write by just responding to the question given, or should you write more than what is required? Most of the time, students either write too little or go overboard. The key is to respond appropriately and accurately, not too brief and not exaggerated. To help you remember what to do, keep these 3 steps in mind as your golden rule throughout the exam. Step 1 is all about understanding the task. Before you even start writing, you must analyze the email or letter stimulus carefully. Ask yourself these questions. 1. What are the keywords in the question or instruction? 2. Who sent the email? 3. To whom is it written? 4. What is the email really about? 5. Should I use formal or informal language? By answering these questions, you are identifying the context, which is crucial. For example, if it's from your friend, the tone should be casual. But if it's from your lecturer or a club secretary, it should be more formal and polite. Next, step 2. That is where most students lose marks. You must use all the notes or keywords provided in the email stimulus. When you read the question, make sure to underline or highlight these notes in the instruction and in every paragraph. These notes act as your guidelines. They tell you exactly what you must include in your reply. Here's a tip. For every paragraph in the given email, you must write one corresponding paragraph in your reply. Let's say the sender asks, "Did you attend the event?" You must respond clearly, "Yes, I did," or "No, I couldn't." Then add 1 or 2 elaborating sentences. If the sender asks, "Was it interesting?" respond, "Yes, it was fascinating because blah blah blah," and explain briefly. The key idea is to agree or disagree when necessary and elaborate appropriately. Once you have identified all the notes, move to step 3. Write your response. Remember, you should always write in paragraphs, not in point form. Each paragraph should address a different part of the sender's email, and your ideas should flow naturally. For instance, paragraph 1 may be your greeting and response to the opening question. Paragraph 2 may respond to the sender's plan or suggestion. And paragraph 3 may be your opinion or advice, followed by a closing remark. This way, your email looks organized, complete, and reader-friendly. Now let us look at one practice. Here's the question. Please take a moment to go through the question. You are advised to spend about 25 minutes on this task. Your classmate Linda attended a talk on online business last week. Read the email from her informing about the talk which she had attended. From Linda, subject online business. "Hi, how are you? Hope you are doing great." And the note is, "Yes. Sorry that you have missed the online business talk last week. I really enjoyed it. It was by a famous and successful businesswoman. The speaker stated that online business is more popular than the traditional way of doing business. The next note is agree. After listening to the talk, I'm interested to start my own online business. I hope to do this but after finishing my studies, but I'm not sure what kind of product to sell online. Do you have any suggestions? You have to suggest too. Would you like to join me in setting up an online business? The note is no, because I hope to hear from you soon, Linda. Using all the notes given, write a reply of at least 100 words in an appropriate style. Now let us analyze this response, sample 1. The header is not accurate as it should not be from Linda. It should be your name or it could be another name other than Linda. As for the subject, online business, it is accurate. Now the salutation hi Linda seems to be appropriate as the tone of the email should be informal and casual since you are writing to your friend Linda. Now move to the first paragraph. Looks like the candidate has successfully hit the first note, yes, but no actually. Remember, you should always start your first paragraph by giving an opening remark. Opening remark or must come immediately after salutation. And remember that OR has nothing to do with note 1, and failing to do so will cost you your mark. In second paragraph, there are inaccuracies and vague responses. First, the word you. You could not join it. You here is inaccurate as it is not Linda who did not attend the talk. It should be I. The word it is vague because the reference is missing. Now again, the word it in the following line is also vague and blurry. The same goes with the usage of pronouns her and she. Who is the writer referring to here? As for the last part of paragraph 2, the examiners expect the candidate to elaborate on why she agrees that online business is more popular. You must have your justification as this will make your marks better. When we look at paragraph 3, the same mistake was done by the candidate. She started the response as that, which is vague. We are unclear of the reference. Besides, little expansion is also seen, and this affects the quality of the response. Look at how the second suggestion was made. It was only a mere mention without any elaboration for the idea. As for the last paragraph, when the writer writes, no, because, well, it shows that the candidate has written a vague response which made us wonder, what does it refer to? The candidate should have written a clear response as she was saying no to setting up the online business with her friend. We could also see that the writer did not attempt to write the closing remark. As for the closing remark, it must not be related to note 4 at all. When you are writing closing remark or CR, you are signaling the readers that you are about to end the writing. Well, a simple bye would do. Most importantly, let us focus on the sign off. A sign off must be decipherable and reflect Alina. So please do not write in cursive as this will jeopardize your marks. Now let's compare the one that we had just now with this one, sample 2. The header, subject and salutation are all accurate, and this writer has also incorporated the opening remark immediately after the salutation. Only then she addressed note 1. Moving on to paragraph 2, we could see the elaboration being made to develop the ideas. Remember, usually paragraph 2 to 4 is where the task allows the candidate to expand your ideas. Maturity and coherence must be maintained, like what we see in paragraph 3 now. After the suggestion is being made, the writer justifies it and not letting the readers to fill in for her. This is the level of response that examiners might expect from the candidates. As we can see, there are some nice expressions used and low-frequency words are being utilized by the writer. As for the last paragraph, we could see the writer declining the offer and give reason for it. The writer also ends the response by writing a closing remark and also sign off. Let's now go through some important do's. Underline or highlight key points in the stimulus. Make sure your response includes all essential elements, the correct format for email or letter, salutation like Hi, John or Dear Madam, opening remark, How are you? Hope you are doing well. Address all notes adequately. Write in paragraphs following the same sequence as in the stimulus. Give appropriate responses like explain, agree, disagree, apologize when needed. Include a closing remark and sign off correctly with your name. If you follow this checklist, your response will meet all the marking criteria. And now the don'ts, things that may cost you marks. Avoid vague responses like, yes, I agree with her, or yes, it is true. Like in this case, we don't know who her is and it. These do not show understanding or elaboration. Avoid inaccurate information. For example, I do not quite agree with the speaker that online business is more popular than the traditional way of doing business, because you have to agree according to the note. Or, I would like to join you in setting up an online business, where you are supposed to say you do not want to join Linda in setting up an online business. If these do not match the task details, your answer becomes irrelevant. And do not ignore any details in the email. Every note given in the stimulus must be addressed. If one paragraph contains two details, make sure both are responded to. And finally, don't confuse the sender and receiver. If you write to the wrong person or use the wrong name, your format marks will drop significantly. Do not omit any mandatory detail. If one paragraph of the stimulus requires two responses, supply two concise but adequate replies. Omitting information will reduce your content marks. Certain keywords are non-negotiable. For instance, the name of an event, dates, venues, or the format requested. Ensure you include these exactly as instructed. Also, ensure you use the correct format, email or letter, because choosing the wrong format will lead to loss of marks. Be certain about sender and receiver. If you respond as the wrong person or address the wrong recipient, your response will be penalized. Always double check names and relationship in the stimulus. So, how detailed should your response be? The answer is simple, just enough. You don't have to write long essay. This is not task 2. Task 1 requires about 100 words, at least 100 words. You only need to respond accurately and adequately, not to exaggerate or add irrelevant details. If you keep your sentences short, precise, and complete, you have a well-balanced response. Before we wrap up, let's remember the purpose of this task. It's designed to assess your ability to communicate in writing, to show that you can respond appropriately in different contexts. So, to recap, understand the task and identify key details, use all the notes given, respond to every question clearly. Write in proper format and paragraphs. Avoid vague, inaccurate, or irrelevant points. By following these steps, you will be able to write a complete and confident response for Muet Task 1. Thank you all for listening. I hope this session has helped clarify how to tackle your Muet Writing Task 1 effectively. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very pleasant day to everyone. I'm Mr. Firdaus from the English unit, and today we are tackling the most challenging yet the most rewarding part of my writing paper, writing task 2 or the extended writing task. Students, good writing is effective writing, and effective writing is always structured writing. Now let's look at the parameters of task 2. First of all, time allocation. You have approximately 50 minutes for this task. This includes planning, writing, as well as reviewing. So, time management is crucial. As for the word count, the requirement is at least 250 words. But in order to explain better, I bet 250 words are insufficient to educate your readers and to ensure that you fully develop your ideas and arguments. If you write less than 250 words, you will not have enough rooms to substantiate your ideas. Throughout my career, I have seen many students with good command of language score lower due to insufficient explanation. Mark allocation. As for the mark allocation, this task is worth a maximum of 60 marks, making it the highest weighted component in the entire Muet paper 800/4. Now, let's look at the structure. The golden rule for task 2 is a 5-paragraph structure, which includes an introductory paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, in which each discussing a separate main idea, and last but not least, a conclusion. Now let's move on to the next slide. Before you start writing, you must identify what kind of essay the prompt requires. There are 4 main types in Muet, which are argumentative. This is the most common. The question will ask you to express your opinion, agree or disagree. The essay must take a clear stand and devote all 3 body paragraphs in supporting the stand. The next type of essay would be discursive. This requires a balanced view. You might discuss 2 points on the topic and 1 point against it, or vice versa, before reiterating your stand in the conclusion. The third one would be the cause and effect. The prompt asks you to analyze the reasons or causes behind a phenomenon and the resulting consequences, which are the effects. For example, the lack of appreciation for our culture has caused Malaysians to lose their true identity. And last but not least, the problem solution type of writing. This type of essay asks you to identify a significant problem, for example, plastic waste, and then propose actionable, practical solutions to address it. Next, we're going to look at the question. The key to a successful essay is understanding the prompt. Let's use the sample question from the slide. Now, first of all, let's look at the rubric of the task. The rubric reads, you attended a seminar which discussed the issue of people paying too much attention to their appearance. The following statement was made by the guest speaker. And now, let's look at the question. Young generation today is obsessed with beauty standards. And your actual task is here. You have to write an essay expressing your opinion on the statement. Write at least 250 words. Now, students, after you have looked at the question, now what do we do immediately? We have a four-step analysis. The first one is to focus on the keywords. What are, what are the most important terms? Here, it is the young generation, obsessed, and beauty standards. When you focus on the keywords must appear in all of the body paragraphs. The next step is understanding the keywords. What do these terms imply? Obsess means an extreme preoccupation. Beauty standards are often unrealistic ideals of physical appearance promoted by the media. Now, the next step is for you to decide your stand. The question asks you to express your opinion, so you must choose a clear position, agree, disagree, or perhaps a nuanced partial stand. For example, agreeing that the obsession exists, but only among a small segment of the youth. Remember, a strong, focused stand is always easier to write. Now, the last one for you to do is list down your reasons. Once you have your stand, brainstorm three distinct and separate main ideas to support it. This will become your topic sentence for your three body paragraphs. Students, let's talk about one of the most important parts of your essay, introduction. Many students underestimate it, but remember, the introduction sets the tone for your entire essay. It's the examiner's first impression of your writing. So, if your introduction is clear, confident, and structured, you already have a strong start. An effective introduction has three main parts: hook or leading, stand, as well as the thesis statement. Now let's break this down one by one. Now let's move on to the first item, which is the hook or leading. This is your first sentence and it should hook your reader's attention, just like a good opening scene in a movie. It introduces the topic in an interesting or thought-provoking way, but without immediately giving your opinion. There are several ways to write a good hook. Let's begin with the rhetorical question. For example, have you ever noticed how much time young people spend taking selfies or editing photos before posting them online? You can also begin your essay with a general statement. For example, in today's world, people are becoming increasingly concerned about their looks and physical appearance. Another interesting way to start your essay is through the usage of proverbs or idioms. For example, as the saying goes, beauty is only skin deep. Yet many forget the true meaning of this phrase today. Last but not least, you can also state the fact or statistic. For example, according to a recent survey, more than 60% of teenagers feel insecure about their looks due to the exposure of social media. Now, the purpose of the hook is to show that you understand the topic in a general sense before giving your opinion. Students, after you have caught the reader's attention, the next step is to clearly state your stand. In other words, your position or opinion about the issue. In Muet Writing Task 2, the question always asks for your opinion, so you must decide whether you agree, disagree, or partially agree, in which you have a neutral or balanced view. Now, here's how you can express your stand naturally. For example, I strongly agree with the statement that, or I disagree with the statement because. Or, I partially agree with the statement as, but students, please be advised that you have to avoid being vague. Don't write something like this. For example, this issue has pros and cons. And let's be clear, the examiner wants to know your position from the start. Finally, the last part of your introduction is the thesis statement. This is a very important sentence because it tells the examiner what your essay will discuss, your main points or arguments. Now, a good thesis statement consists of a specific and a focused sentence, and it must summarize all of your main ideas in one sentence. And last but not least, it matches your stand. And your body paragraph must reflect it. So when you combine the three parts, who, stand, and thesis statement, you get a complete, powerful introduction. Before we proceed, let's take a look at the question again. Now that we have discussed the three parts of the effective introduction, the hook, stand, and the thesis statement, let's see how these parts come together in a real example. Now this paragraph is a complete example of an excellent Muet introduction. It's sophisticated, logical, and clearly organized. Let's break it down part by part so you can understand why it is effective and how you can model your own introduction after it. First of all, let's look at the hook or lead-in. We are looking at the first two sentences now. In the modern era, beauty has become a powerful and often oppressive social construct. With the rise of social media, influencer culture, and mass marketing, the young generation is increasingly exposed to narrow and often unrealistic beauty standards. Let's pause here. This is a strong hook because it does three important things. It gives you context, in which it introduces the topic in a modern and relevant way. For example, the mentioning of social media and marketing, and it sounds mature. Words like powerful and oppressive social construct, it shows that the writer has critical awareness of the topic, and it avoids the personal language. For example, no, I think, or in my opinion, yet, which keeps the tone academic. Notice how it sounds formal and objective, exactly what the examiner is looking for. Now let's look at the second part. This obsession with physical appearance affects not only how youth perceive themselves, but how they navigate social spaces, form identities, and measure self-worth. This sentence connects the hook with the issue. It shows that the writer understands that the problem is not just about beauty, it's about psychological and social impact as well. Now that is a sign of a high-level Muet response. It signifies that the writer goes beyond the surface. Now let's move on to the stand. The assertion that young generation today is obsessed with beauty standards rings true. I firmly agree with this statement. Now here, the writer clearly gives their stand. It's direct and confident. I firmly agree, for example, and that's what the examiner wants, a clear as well as a decisive opinion. And the last part would be the thesis statement. It is the final sentence of the introduction and probably the most important. And it does three key things. For example, it gives a clear reason for the writer's opinion. The second one is list the three main ideas that will form the body paragraphs. And last but not least, it prepares the reader for what's coming next. It's like a roadmap for your essay. So the thesis statement helps both you and the examiner stay focused. Students, let us now look at the body paragraphs. A body paragraph is where you prove your point. Examiners or readers look for development and support. We will use the WIT technique to ensure every paragraph is robust, well explained, and directly relevant to your stand. WIT is an acronym for the four sentences or functions that must be in every body paragraph. It stands for W for why. It gives reasons for your main idea. Always ask yourself, why is it true? H, on the other hand, stands for how. This is where you explain how or in what way it happened. Usually, how may also appear as an example. The next one, for E, it stands for effect. It shows the result or consequences. And last but not least, the T, it stands for the tie-up. This is where you link back to the essay question or your thesis statement. This structure keeps your paragraph logical and prevents you from going off topic. Now, students, let's look at the sample of the body paragraph. Let's begin with the topic sentence. One of the primary reasons behind this beauty fixation is the overwhelming influence of digital media. This is where it states your main point, linking back to your thesis statement. And then you move on to why. Okay, this is because social platforms like Instagram and TikTok have created a virtual environment in which image is currency and validation is measured by likes and followers. Young people are constantly exposed to idealized portrayals of beauty that are curated, filtered, and often unrealistic. Next, you want to move to how. The way this manifests is through a culture of comparison, where teenagers begin to scrutinize their appearance against influencers and celebrities who often use extreme digital enhancement. Next, let's move on to the effect. The psychological effects are severe. Rising rates of body dysmorphia, anxiety, and depression among adolescents have been directly linked to the excessive social media consumption. The last part of the body paragraph would be the tie-up. In this event, the writer begins the tie-up as thus, digital media serves as both the catalyst and amplifier for youth obsession with beauty, creating a distorted sense of self-worth, tied almost entirely to physical appearance. Now let's look at the pro tip here. Notice the use of transition words. For example, this is because the way this manifests, the psychological effects are severe, and the word thus. These are your cohesive features. It's the oil that makes your essay engine runs smoothly. In this example, the main idea is the influence of digital media, and the writer explains why social media creates unrealistic standards. Then, how it affects through comparison culture. The effect includes psychological problems like body dysmorphia and anxiety. And finally, the paragraph ties up by linking back to the main idea, which is the digital media fuels obsession with beauty. Now each paragraph should follow this clear flow. Students, your conclusion is the last thing the examiner reads. It must be strong and summarize your entire argument. It must follow a four-step sequence. Let's look at the first one, which is summarize your ideas. This is where you briefly recap your three main points, for example, digital media, commercial exploitation, and peer pressure. And please remember, do not introduce a new information. Moving on to the next part is where you reaffirm your stand. This is where you clearly state your overall stand one last time. Now let's move on to the third part, which is to restate your thesis statement. You have to state your thesis statement in a new way. You might also want to use synonyms and different sentence structures. And last but not least, you end your essay with a final, forward-looking statement, or a prediction, or even a powerful piece of advice or suggestion to solve the issue. Now let's look at the sample for conclusion. In conclusion, I firmly agree that the obsession with beauty standards among today's youth is not a superficial trend, but a multifaceted issue shaped by digital media, commercial interests, and social pressures. Moving forward, there is a pressing need for educational systems, families, and media platforms to promote body positivity, media literacy, and self-worth rooted in intrinsic qualities. Only then can the youth break free from the chains of superficiality and grow into confident individuals who appreciate beauty in all its diverse forms. Students, apart from your content, your language use is what elevates a Band 4 essay to a Band 5 or 5 plus. Examiners are looking for a confident control of language. It means that having a minimal errors that obscure meaning. You have to focus on accuracy, for example, grammar or spelling, above all else. Now the next one is in terms of the sentence structure. Please come up with a various sentence structure. Don't rely on simple sentences. Use compound sentences like joining two independent clauses with a conjunction like and, but, or, and complex structures. For example, using subordinating conjunctions like although, because, and while. The next one is in terms of vocabulary. Please use appropriate, specific vocabulary. For example, instead of using a big problem, use significant challenge or formidable obstacle. Next, you want to highlight your cohesion. We already talked about this. Effective linking of ideas and points using transition words is essential. Finally, let's look at the tips on answering task 2. First of all, planning is non-negotiable. You have to allocate 5 to 8 minutes to plan your entire essay, the stand, the three main points, and the weight subpoints for each body paragraph. Next, you have to stick to the plan. If you write it in your thesis statement, write about it in the body. If you didn't, don't write about it. You have to avoid irrelevancies. When it comes to inaccuracy, you will not be married with the higher bands. The next part is to review or reread your response. You have to allocate the final 2 to 3 minutes to reread your essay and fix basic errors. For example, the typos or the subject-verb agreement. And that, students, brings us to the end of our session. Remember, effective writing isn't about using bombastic words. It's about clarity, coherence, and strong arguments. So, read widely, practice regularly, and always reflect on how you can improve. Thank you, and all the best for your Muet writing task 2.